Well, it's a dangerous fight.
Yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him, for sure.
And will.
And will. I mean, Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest one-punch KO artists ever.
Yes.
I mean, he's a one-punch night guy.
Yeah.
Wade, if Jake Paul gets knocked out, will his career be over? Buddy, his life may be over if he gets knocked out by AJ, because that dude put Francis Ngannou flat on his back, and I had never seen Francis Ngannou hurt before. And again,
I don't think this is a proper. I don't think that I would ever consider having a debate about whether Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a proper fight between two bona fide champions. I think Jake Paul is someone that's creating a lot of opportunity for himself and using sport as the anchor for it. And will I watch it? No. And do I value it?
Joe Rogan cautions that by even thinking about a fight with Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul is entering very risky terrain. Joshua is one of the strongest boxers of this generation and an Olympic gold medalist, Rogan emphasizes. He thinks that in order to prevent Jake from criticizing great champions for financial gain, Joshua would attempt to use Jake as an example. According to Rogan, the level disparity is so great that Jake might suffer a severe defeat in the battle.
Oh my God, if he beat Anthony Joshua, good Lord. Good Lord. I mean, that's a big if, right?
I mean,
Anthony Joshua,
I do not
Olympic gold
Yes.
medalist, former heavyweight champion of the world. What he did to Francis Ngannou,
I know.
good Lord.
Yes.
Do you want that smoke?
Yeah, I just think it's all about the promotion or whatever. I have no idea what the actual motivation is for that fight's not competitive at all.
Well, it's a dangerous fight.
Yeah.
Because Joshua's going to try to make an example out of him, for sure.
And will.
And will. I mean, Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest one-punch KO artists ever.
Yes.
I mean, he's a one-punch.
The host of the Wade Concept podcast, Wade Plemons, forcefully warns Jake Paul that confronting Anthony Joshua puts him in danger of suffering severe physical violence. Plemons notes that there is a significant weight and strength difference between Joshua and Jake, with Joshua fighting at about 111 kilograms and Jake walking around at about 90 kilograms. He highlights that choosing bouts for amusement is one thing, but competing against a seasoned heavyweight champion with Olympic experience is quite another. After all, Anthony Joshua won a gold medal at the Olympics. Plemons is adamant that Jake might never fully recover if Joshua knocks him, claiming that this is a potentially life-altering incident rather than merely a mismatch. He feels that Jake is unaware of the true risk he is facing because of his desire to fight for money.
in making this fight, one, yes, that's the former heavyweight champ. Why is he fighting Jake Paul? And two, why is Jake Paul putting his health and well-being on the line? Because someone asked me on Twitter, Wade, if Jake Paul gets knocked out, will his career be over? Buddy, his life may be over if he gets knocked out by AJ, because that dude put Francis Ngannou flat on his back, and I had never seen Francis Ngannou hurt before. And again, it's boxing, not MMA. Jake has a little more experience, but we're talking about a massive size difference. AJ's still relatively young and still relatively got something left in the tank, and he's only fought the world-class guys for the last 10 years. This would be Jake's not only hardest fight, most dangerous fight of his career. If Jake is doing this, it could signal the last one. I'm not even joking. This could signal Jake being like, I'm having one more of these and I'm out. Because where do you go from Anthony Joshua? We'll get into that part in a second, but the Netflix thing. We know that Anthony Joshua is an exclusive fighter to DAZN. Eddie Hearn has stated that multiple times. AJ, I'm pretty sure, even has a piece of DAZN. I could be wrong about that, but he signed a mega deal years ago with them. So for this fight to take place on Netflix would mean DAZN would say, you can have one of our biggest cash draws, and I may be in a revenue share thing, or maybe Netflix pays them some money, but you can have our biggest cash draw, and we don't have an affiliation with it. That seems a bit unrealistic. But having said that, this isn't a report from anybody in the camp. This is not MVP saying it. This is not Eddie Hearn saying it. This is Mike Coppinger, who I guess has talked to people in the camp. But an independent source saying that they are finalizing a deal. Not that they're in talks. They are finalizing a deal. So this is, again, we're talking 1 yard line, first and goal.
According to Boxing Kingdom, a professional boxing match between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua is currently being discussed on X. This will adhere to proper Queensberry regulations and not be an exhibition. This demonstrates that the battle is not being treated as a light-hearted or exhibition fight, but rather in accordance with all professional requirements. If the fight were to be decided, it would feature official referees, conventional professional procedures, and scoring, emphasizing the serious risks and high stakes for both fighters. The boxing world is abuzz with news that Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is being finalized for December. However, Joshua's longtime promoter Eddie Hearn initiates the early information in a conversation. According to Hearn, a lot of the reporting is currently conjecture and no official contracts have been signed. Meanwhile, seasoned boxing and mixed martial arts journalist Ariel Helwani speculates that something is going on behind the scenes because so many people are discussing the fight. According to Helwani, when rumors get this much traction, they frequently allude to an actual event, either near the end of this year or the beginning of the next. Thus, despite Hearn's warning, Helwani is still optimistic that the bout might happen sooner rather than later.
Joshua and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell Ring Magazine Paul steps up massively to fight the former heavyweight champion after his exhibition with Gervonta Davis was canceled. Major props to Paul. So there you have it. In the midst of all this, I did reach out to Eddie Hearn, as did Gareth, and he said, "We have spoken, but nothing close, and I doubt he would be so crazy." He being Jake. I then asked him, "Would you say this report is premature?" He said, "Absolutely." And then I said, "Can I attribute this to you?" And he said, "Yes." And so, what do we make of this, guys? Do we think there's smoke to this fire? PT, what do you think? You think this is something that could actually happen? This would be within the next month, right? This would be sometime between now and probably December 19th or so, in that time frame. What do you think?
I think it's a huge fight. You know, I didn't expect this at all. Usually when Jake is in a fight, the odds feel like they're stacked very much in his favor. This is the complete opposite of that. I'd very much agree with Gareth A. Davis's take, which was I'd expect Joshua to obliterate him in a boxing match. I mean, look what Anthony Joshua did to Francis Ngannou before that Dubois fight. Like, I mean, it was a completely different affair than the Tyson Fury fight. I think, having heard Eddie Hearn's update and having looked at that tweet again, it feels like boxing's equivalent to the old in the works reporting that we used to see in MMA an awful lot, right? Like when we weren't quite sure, maybe one side had verified that this fight is happening, but you can't get the other side to commit, and it's in the works. It's a huge fight. The one thing I will say is, why would you want that out there? Why would the Ring report this? Why would someone give them that information if it wasn't going to happen? Now, because everything else pales in comparison to this, as far as I'm concerned. Every other fight that they had perspective or potential, I don't think it's as big as Anthony Joshua. So I don't know.
This isn't a ring
they
fight, right? This isn't a ring fight. Anthony Joshua is tied to DAZN. Anthony Joshua has a relationship with Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh Season. The ring is owned.
Leon Edwards' response to the persistent reports regarding a possible battle between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was shared by MMA Fighting on X. Edwards stated that the bout must be rigged or something if AJ doesn't eliminate him in 1 or 2 rounds. His remark draws attention to the two fighters' stark differences in strength, skill, and experience. Edwards suggests that any lengthy fight would be unexpected and that Joshua's domination is predicted. The response from a prominent UFC welterweight champion highlights how dangerous and serious the bout would be, as well as how many people don't think Jake Paul can handle Joshua's strength.
Seeing this fight's in the works, Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, as a Brit, how do you evaluate?
I've just seen that. Someone just told me about that. That's mad. Fair play to Jake Paul, first of all, for taking it. But if Asia doesn't knock him out in like 1-2 rounds, then I feel like the fight must be fixed or something, because I'm going to Anthony Joshua, obviously, for the KO. So yeah, when is it, you know?
It's going to be next month they're working towards.
Oh yeah, sick. Yeah, I'm going AJ for the win.
Cheers.
Former MMA heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, now a boxer, was brutally knocked out by Anthony Joshua. This demonstrated that Joshua's strength and heavyweight ringcraft are genuine. Jake Paul talked about taking on Ngannou, which was a risky decision given Francis's reputation for being dangerous. However, the topic of discussion has now turned to Joshua, who poses perhaps an even bigger threat. Now that Ngannou has been knocked out, Jake is facing a fighter who has consistently shown that his size, speed, and heavyweight expertise make him a formidable opponent. To put it another way, Jake is pursuing a man who vanquished Ngannou, a risky venture with tremendous potential rewards. Jake Paul versus Francis Ngannou was the matchup that was taken into consideration during the preliminary stages of negotiations. But Francis openly rejected the proposal, calling it insulting and stating that he wouldn't waste his time on a crossover boxer influencer.
with Jake and everything's wrong with Francis. He can go with Francis. So now all of a sudden you start satisfying both ends of this. Okay. So when that falls through, the rumor is that Francis and Jake are still in talks. Even though Francis did not come through on the event he was offered and the date he was offered, MVP and Netflix may be willing to reschedule everything and still make him part of it. And Francis' big statement was just, hey, this doesn't make sense. No, it's not what I'm looking for. Doesn't make sense. Okay. That's not my business. I can't be mad at Francis for that. That just cost Francis a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That just cost Francis life-changing money. I can't be mad. If I'm mad at Francis, then I got my way. He cut off his nose to spite his face. I can't be mad at him. He's already been punished. What good does it do me to be mad at him? All right. Well, then you bring in Joshua. Joshua shows you how it's done. Right? Joshua and Francis are not remarkably comparable. I mean, not only did they box, they're not remarkably comparable, but in the world of boxing and just the accomplishments, I mean, you take Joshua Benson, an Olympic finalist, for goodness sakes, right? Just like lifelong, very well known. Multiple generations of boxing ties. You know, go all the way back to Klitschko. Go all the way back. You couldn't go before Klitschko was there first, but you go all the way back to Klitschko. Anything that has ever happened in the sport of boxing says you can tie Joshua to. And he's a professional, and above everything else, he's a real boxer. So if he is to say something makes sense, then it makes sense. Right? If you have Joshua's opinion of does this make sense to... Now, none of us know what sense means. We don't even know if he's spelling it with an S or a C. None of us can define or tell you what this means. It makes such little sense that Francis can't even tell you why it doesn't make sense. But again, I can't be mad at Francis. He already pissed down his own leg. So, but if you could have Francis's opinion of what in the world of boxing or combat or money or business or sport makes sense, like Francis's level of success is not remarkable.